everybody, and welcome to Gene's Reviews from a regular dude, where I do movie reviews, trailer reactions, I react to YouTube videos, and I review YouTube channels, and I do whatever the hell I want. Now, a while back, I did some stuff, a video on the National Park disappearances and that 411, and this is 5 National Park disappearances. And so I find this stuff kind of interesting because they're claiming, you know, these people are vanishing without any trace whatsoever, and they're never finding anything. They're never finding their footprints. Just stop wherever they was going. They see footprints and then they're not there anymore. And they find no human remains. They find nothing. So is it aliens? Is it Bigfoot? Is Bigfoot the same as an alien? Who knows? Let's check this out right now.
Countries across the world have established national park systems to preserve their natural wildlife and offer adventurous visitors a safe place to explore the wilderness. Unfortunately though, no park is perfectly safe. While rangers do their best to keep everyone out of the path of danger when visiting parks, accidents and tragedies are often out of their control, and bad things do happen. According to public record, thousands of people have gone missing in national parks dating all the way back to the 1940s. These 5 people are considered missing victims of a national park. Number 5. Morgan Heimer was 22 years old when he went missing on June 2nd, 2015. Heimer was a commercial guide for a rafting company that currently hosted trips in the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon National Park. He and another guide were on their 6th day of an 8-day planned river trip, leading attendees.
Okay, so he worked in the national park. He knew the area. He supposedly knew what he was doing.
Safely along the water. On that day, around 4 p.m., the group took a break near River Mile 213 near Pumpkin Springs. The other guide was busy talking to group members when Morgan vanished. The guide reported seeing Morgan stand near the edge of the water. When the guide looked back shortly later, Morgan was gone. A search was later conducted by the group and additional guides to find Morgan. Sadly, they were unable to find even a trace of him and reported him missing to park rangers around 7:30 p.m. Group members were able to provide rangers with the following detailed description of the missing man. According to them, he was wearing a dark-colored astral personal flotation device, a blue plaid long-sleeve shirt, a pair of Chaco flip-flop sandals, a maroon baseball cap, and brightly colored shorts, and was carrying a purple water bottle. At first, responders learned that Morgan had an impressive skill set and was a person that they were very likely to find, assuming his skills would keep him alive in the wilderness and eventually lead him back to safety. A 6-day search followed, which covered hundreds of miles in the park. Hope quickly faded, though, when search members were left without a single strand of evidence. In the end, investigators were left empty-handed and had to end the active search. Despite his apparent skill set, Morgan clearly got himself into trouble. Some speculation suggests that he fell into the river while standing at its edge and was caught by a rock or branch, causing him to drown. This is a realistic possibility, but it seems as though his body would have been discovered in the water at some point, considering how many miles of the river were inspected. Another theory is that Morgan fell from the edge, injured himself, and got lost in the woods while trying to find his way back, eventually starving or being attacked by an animal. Unfortunately, Morgan Heimer remains on the list of unsolved disappearances in national parks to this day, and it seems as though it may stay that way. Number 4. John Devine was a 73-year-old man from Washington who vanished on September 7th, 1997. His family described him as a skilled hiker with many years of experience under his belt. Sadly, his set of strong skills were not enough to prevent him from disappearing while on a very strenuous hike. On the morning of September...
Well, still, 73 years old. That's pretty old to be out there hiking in like Yosemite or somewhere like that, I think, especially if you're all by yourself.
September 7th, John headed to the Olympic National Park in Washington after several days of planning for a special hike. According to his family, he intended on conquering the climb up Mount Baldy, which measured 6,786 feet high. While he expected the mission to be a fun challenge, he was confident in his ability to easily complete the climb. The trail that leads to Mount Baldy is known as Maynard Burn Trail, a steep, rough, and tortuous terrain, easily comparable to Mother Nature's obstacle course. Still, John saw no threat in the trail and assured his wife and family that he would be able to accomplish his goal without risking his health. When leaving that morning, John explained the plan to his family and provided an estimated time for his arrival back home. The day carried on with the family not worrying much about their skilled father and husband as any other day. However, John's arrival time eventually came around and there was no sign of him. After that, a few more hours passed without so much as a phone call. His family finally began to worry and ultimately called local law enforcement and park rangers. A massive search team was organized and set out to find the elderly man, assuming he'd gotten lost or hurt along the trail. Sadly, John's absence wasn't the only major issue at hand. During the search, an accident occurred involving a rescue helicopter. Shortly after lifting off from the mountainside at 5,000-foot level of Mount Baldy, the helicopter crashed and plummeted to the earth. In the wreck, the 35-year-old pilot, a 52-year-old park employee, and a 31-year-old employee all lost their lives in the tragedy. Additionally, at least 5 other search members were injured and rushed to the hospital. Not only was this a depressing occurrence, but it was a huge roadblock in the search for John. The team lost many hours of daylight after the accident, and as is common with each passing moment of a missing person's search, the likelihood of finding the man diminished greatly. At one point, a sergeant named Don Kelly stated if he was walking around up there, we would have found him by now, referring to John atop Mount Baldy. Much to the disappointment of his family, John Devine was never found. The details of his fate remain unknown even to this day. To make matters worse, this was not the first or last disappearance to occur at Olympic National Park, bringing into question the park's protocols, procedures, and general safety measures concerning lost hikers.
No, I think it's more than just getting lost.
Number 3. Mitchell Dale Staley was a successful man with a love for hiking and nature. Throughout his life, he embarked on many hiking adventures and explorations. His family described him as a very skilled outdoorsman and stated that they had nothing but confidence in him on the day that he vanished. On the morning of June 9, 2013, Mitchell shared his plans for the day with his wife and mother, explaining that he was going to go on a casual hike within the Spruce Treehouse ruin located in Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado. An odd detail that must be mentioned is that Mitchell left home with no supplies, not even a water bottle, despite the challenge of the hike and the weather outside, which was reaching a painful 100 degrees with harsh beams of sunshine. Of course, this minor yet significant detail was not very alarming until the man went missing. While discussing the trip with his wife, he estimated he would be home within just a few hours. His promised time of arrival passed by 2 hours, and his wife instantly began to worry. She called local law enforcement and park rangers, which sparked a 2-week search that was considered intense and detailed.
That's
in the early stages of the search, the team included 60 searchers,
and everything
2
down there.
dog
That's pretty
teams,
neat.
helicopter surveillance, and rope teams that rappelled off cliffs in the nearby area. Despite the coverage, no evidence was found. In fact, the highly trained search dogs didn't detect a single trace of Mitchell's presence. At first, suspicions arose that Mitchell had lied to his family about the hike and had either fled his home life or vanished from somewhere else.
That could be.
That theory was diminished when witnesses came forward to report sightings of the man before he vanished.
Oh.
They had seen him on Petroglyph Point Trail. This trail was known for its confusing path and dangerous terrain. According to online references, the trail was 2.5 miles long, with significant cliff exposure that was very dangerous. Even now, 6 years after his disappearance, not a single strand of evidence has been found concerning Mitchell's disappearance.
Well,
theories suggest that he either passed away from dehydration, a heat stroke, or serious injury. While his family is still kept up to date on any incoming information, the unfortunate hiker is presumed to be deceased.
That's such a big, huge area, though. Somebody could come up missing and you would never find them. As big as, those national parks are and everything. I mean, it could be something more, but I think with most of these, a lot of them anyway, I think it's just they fell off a cliff or they drowned or something like that.
Number 2. Floyd Roberts was a 52-year-old resident of Treasure Island, Florida, who went missing while visiting the Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona. Floyd was on a 9-day group hiking adventure, and according to online sources, it was June 17, 2016, and the group was on a plateau that would exit the canyon via Separation Canyon. The weather was described as having extreme heat conditions, making the hike much more difficult for some. A news release from the National Park Service stated that Floyd was last seen at Kelly Tank heading towards Trail Canyon, also known as the 214-mile canyon, which was near the river. He somehow got separated from his group and was eventually reported missing. Missing persons cases in the wilderness are addressed much more quickly than in regular spots. For example, most regions require that a person be missing for at least 24 hours, or be suffering from physical or mental ailments that put them at higher risk of danger, before a team will be established. In national parks, though, a search effort can be organized within just an hour of someone vanishing. That being said, a search for Floyd was gathered rather instantly. In the early stages of the search, the ground team included members of the Grand Canyon National Park and many of its surrounding counties. In addition to this help, aerial support was called in as well. The first new release from the National Park Service stated that over 10 square miles of the area was covered by searchers. The release also mentioned that the transportation of the area took several hours and made rescue operations and communications a challenge. Most of the momentum in the search ran out after 6 days without a single piece of evidence leading to Floyd's whereabouts. After this, resources were cut back, but rangers and other limited resources remained on the case. Over time, the search was so limited that it basically ended, leaving Floyd's whereabouts a mystery, and to this day, he has still not been found. Number 1. Drake Cramer was a 21-year-old San Antonio, Texas resident that vanished from the Grand Canyon on February 1st, 2015. Drake was studying geology at the University of Texas when he went on his trip, which involved many strange and puzzling factors. On January 29th, Drake went in to see a movie with his parents. His father reported that he was in good spirits throughout the evening, and he didn't sense any sort of odd behavior from his son. This is the last time that his parents saw him, though. He then traveled to the Grand Canyon, and his parents explained that although Drake had been to the area several times, it was very unlike him to travel to the wilderness alone. On the morning of February 1st, 2015, Drake checked out of Bright Angel Lodge on the south rim of the Grand Canyon. This was the last witness sighting reported before his disappearance. However, before vanishing, he also texted his parents, saying that he had to give his body to Mother Earth. His parents were confused and concerned, to say the least, and they tried to reach their son countless times over the next 24 hours, but to no avail. Finally, they reported him missing, and park rangers, along with a search crew, began their efforts. Within the first few days of searching, the National Park Service released a statement saying teams of searchers have walked miles along the canyon rim, searching heavily forested areas, utilized dog teams, performed several over-the-rim technical searches, and conducted multiple aerial renaissance missions to support ground searchers. Unfortunately, even after 6 full days, nothing of importance was found. Attention was then returned to the eerie final text that Drake sent to his parents. When saying he wanted to return to Mother Earth, he could have been referring simply to exploring the outdoors. However, there's also the much more darker hidden meaning that Drake may have been implying that he wanted to take his own life. Still, it was apparently strange to have not found a body or other evidence, considering the region from which he vanished was much less dangerous and complex than other areas of the park. Drake Cramer's case is still unsolved.
Huh. Okay, now, that last one, I think he just killed himself. I mean, saying I need to return to Mother Earth, that's to me, that's not saying I'm going to go hiking in the wilderness. To me, that's something more scary of a thought than that, you know. Anyways, that was 5 more unsettling national park disappearances that need to be solved. From Top 5 Unknowns, and your narrator there was Ty Knotts. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought of that. How about a joke? What do you call a sketchy Italian neighborhood? Yo, a spaghetto.
I apologize for that one.
Okay, I think I better get out of here. Thanks everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff, and I will see you next time.